Southwest 3216 only tired, runway 24 right for land.
Hello and welcome to the CAT-05 rating. This is the 5th rating in the Communication and Airspace Training Series, the VFR training program on the PilotEdge network. Today in the CAT-05, we'll be flying from a Class Delta airport to another Class Delta airport, very similar to the CAT-4. However, here's the kicker. We'll be picking up flight following while en route. VFR flight following is a service that air traffic control provides to VFR aircraft on a workload permitting basis. That means that if ATC gets too busy, they can terminate you at any time, but if they are able to accommodate you, they will provide flight following, which basically just means they'll look after you on the radar, and so you'll be seeing and avoiding outside the cockpit, but then they will be helping you spot traffic and other things such as weather or obstacles. If you get a little bit too low and you don't have good ground contact, they'll help you with that as well. Although it's important to remember that it does not alleviate your requirement to see and avoid at all times. So today, Santa Maria Airport to Bakersfield Airport is our itinerary. We'll head over to SkyVector, and we are going to be departing Santa Maria, which is right here on the California coastline. We're going to be heading northeastbound over these mountains here, 4,800. I'm seeing MSA of 5,200, 5,500. So we're going to cruise at 7,500 today on our way over to Bakersfield. SkyVector's got it as about a 75-mile flight or so, and we're going to be navigating via the FLW VOR today. As with all the CAT ratings, the navigation is entirely up to you, however you'd like to navigate, whether it's your GPS, a VOR, dead reckoning. But today I'm choosing VOR navigation because we've got the FLW VOR smack dab in the middle of the route. So it makes for a very easy choice as far as how to navigate this flight. Now, as I said in the beginning, the main difference of today's flight versus the CAT-4 is that we're going to be picking up flight following while en route. Now, your two options when you pick up flight following are that you can do it on the ground from ground control or clearance delivery, depending on the airport, or you can pick it up in the air. And today we're going to be doing the latter. We're going to depart VFR just like we did in the CAT-4, really no different. And then once we're airborne, we're going to tune up to the approach or center frequency. We'll talk about how to find that in just a moment. And we're going to call up for flight following. Once we're established with flight following with air traffic control, we'll be listening to them all the way into Bakersfield, and they will eventually hand us off to Bakersfield Approach and then Bakersfield Tower. Keep in mind that flight following does not give you any sort of directions. That is, unless you ask for it. ATC is always there as a resource, and if you get lost, you can always ask for a suggested heading or just any sort of advice as to how to get you back on your course. As with all the ratings, please make sure that you review the textual briefing of the CAT-5 page prior to watching this video, and this video will hopefully put it into a better perspective for you visually as you can watch me fly the rating. Additionally, now would be a good time to fill out that flight plan and indicate to the PilotEdge network that you are performing the CAT-5. Now I also want to point out something else that's going to be specific to this flight, at least for the video series, that we've done CATs 1 through 4 together already, and this being the CAT-5. At the time I'm recording this video, the visibility at Santa Maria Airport, which is right on the California coastline, is pretty poor. In fact, the airport is currently IFR, so as you can see, I've loaded up VFR weather conditions in my simulator. Now on PilotEdge, you're always welcome to fly with whatever weather that you want to fly with. However, keep in mind that controllers by default are going to assume you have real-world weather. Now, to get around that and let the controllers know that we are flying with VFR conditions, in that case they will not deny our VFR departure request, is that when you fill out the flight plan, you'll see at the bottom there's an option for using your own custom weather. You can check that box, and then that will let the network know that you're using your own custom weather. It'll also give you a notification there to make sure that you call up with information Zulu on the ATIS. PilotEdge reserves ATIS information Zulu for when you're flying with your own custom weather. You will never hear ATIS information Zulu on the PilotEdge ATIS. It only goes Alpha through Yankee. Therefore, when we call up today, we're going to let ATC know that we have information Zulu. And that just lets them know we're flying with our own weather conditions, and they will not deny our VFR departure request despite the field being IFR for real. This is just an aside, and it may or may not apply to your CAT-5 flight depending on the weather conditions, but the purpose of this is so that the real-world weather conditions do not affect your flight on the PilotEdge network if you don't want it to. So let's start setting up for today's flight. We're going to start with our frequencies, so we'll pull up the airport diagram. I'm using skyvector.com. Now, we're not actually going to listen to the ATIS today because of what I just said with the custom weather. We're just going to grab our custom weather off the sim, and then we're going to get going. But typically this would be the time where you tune the ATIS on 121.15 if you are using real world weather. This is the point where you want to pick up that weather regardless. But for today, we'll take the ground frequency 121.9er and the tower frequency 118.3. and we are going to get those ready on our radios. Okay, that's set. 1 to 1.9 is active, 118.3 on the standby. And back into the charts we go, and we're going to look up our Fellows VOR, which is going to be our navigational point today. And 117.5 is going to be the frequency there. You can see that in the box just to the southeastern side of Fellows. So back in the cockpit we go. We're at 117.5, and now I've got the DME up there as well. So 31 miles from the Fellows VOR, and we go back into the chart, and that checks out. Look at that, 31 miles exactly. So perfect there. Now getting to Fellows is going to be the easy part. We're just going to navigate directly to Fellows with whatever radial that brings us on. However, off of Fellows, we need to make sure that we are going to be on an appropriate radial to take us to the Bakersfield Airport. So judging by this chart, so that's the 30 radial. That would make this the 40 radial. This is the 50 radial, and this is the 60. So we're going to be right at about the 046, 047, and that actually checks out with what the chart says, 047. So that's perfect. We're going to be on the 47 radial off of Fellows, and that will take us to the Bakersfield Airport. All right, so our navigation set up. Let's get the transponder ready, and we're going to turn it to the altitude mode. Again, if you're in Flight Simulator 2020 or Lockheed Martin's Prepared or FSX, you need to make sure you go to your connection client and select that Mode C button if it's not already set. If you're in X-Plane, just use your transponder as normal. You can just select the altitude function and it will activate accordingly within PilotEdge network. We're on 1200 VFR code, which is perfect. And now for our altimeter, we are going to use the same method we used in the CAT-2 rating, where we're going to locate the field elevation. So back to the chart we go, and the elevation is 261 feet. You can see that right here. So we're going to head back in the cockpit, and we want to make sure this says 261, at least as close to it as we can. So right in there, we're going to go with 29903, and that is the local altimeter. Again, we're using our custom weather settings, which is why we can't just tune the ATIS. Now before we get going, let's just discuss briefly how we're going to find that frequency while we're up in the air to pick up our flight following. Okay, so let's get our frequency ready for the frequency we're going to tune to when we get airborne to pick up that flight following with ATC. I'm just here on the CAT-05 rating page, and if you scroll down, there's a screenshot of the chart supplement, formerly known as the Airport Facility Directory, the AFD. You can also find this on skyvector.com under the airport specific page, SMX, Santa Maria, and in the top left it says chart supplement here. You can just hover over that and it brings up the exact same thing. So we look down here and we're going to look for Santa Barbara Approach or LA Center. Oh, we have two different frequencies. Well, how do we know which one to use? Look, it actually has Zulu times here. This is because Santa Barbara Approach Control closes at night. It closes overnight. Now, on PilotEdge, every single control position is open during the PilotEdge control hours. So this actually would never apply for PilotEdge. But if it did matter, it would still be Santa Barbara Approach, because the time I'm recording this is currently 16:45 Zulu, and you see between 14 and 07 Zulu, it's 24:15. So we've got that frequency now, and I'm going to put that frequency on a piece of paper in front of me. That way we have it for when we get airborne. So we'll come back to that a little bit later as we get up in airborne, but I just want to make sure we find that frequency now so that it's not going to be a problem later on. Okay, so we're just about ready to call ground, and we are going to pull up the airport diagram so we can show you what our taxi instructions are likely going to be. Here's the airport diagram here. We are currently located at the FBO, so we can expect either Uniform, Victor, or maybe just Alpha out to runway 30. Okay, so now we're ready to taxi. Remember, it's just going to be our standard call. Who we're calling, who we are, where we are, that's our location on the field, so we're going to say the Southeast FBO. Our request, so that's going to be an east departure, and the ATIS code. Remember, we're using ATIS information Zulu today because we're using custom weather. We discussed that earlier in the video. Santa Maria ground, bearing 210 Pop Echo, Southeast FBO. Taxi for an east departure with information Zulu. This is for the CAT-5 rating.
210 Pop Echo, Santa Maria ground, copy your CAT-5, runway 30, taxi via Alpha.
Taxi via Alpha, runway 30, bearing 0 Pop Echo. Okay, so we're approaching the full length of runway 30, And we're going to bypass the run-up as we do in most of these videos for time's sake. And now, because we are switching from ground to tower, as we've discussed in previous videos, we make this switch on our own. So we're going to hold short, shy of the hold bars there. And we are going to set the parking brake while we do this. Taxi light off since we're not moving, and we switch over to 118.3. Okay, so we're up on the tower frequency. Now we're going to put that departure frequency, 124.15, in our standby, always getting ahead of the airplane. Okay, so that's set in our standby. We're just going to leave it there. That way it's just a simple one touch and we're ready to go. Now finally, for my VOR navigation, I just want to get the needle pointed in the right direction. Again, we're just trying to stay as far ahead of the airplane as we can before we actually get off the ground. So we're going to set under that needle there. That way we'll at least be close when we get airborne. And we are ready for takeoff. Santa Maria Tower, bearing 210 Pop Echo, holding short runway 30 for an east departure.
Bearing 210 Pop Echo, Santa Maria Tower, right turn to the east approved, runway 30, clear for takeoff.
Right turn to the east approved, clear for takeoff, runway 30, bearing 0 Pop Echo.
On departure, fly runway heading.
And he told us right turn on course is approved, so once we get airborne, we'll be making a right turn out to the east. Power set. And gear coming up. As with all the CAT videos, remember I'm not a real-world bearing pilot nor a twin pilot, so take whatever you see here with a grain of salt as far as the operation of the aircraft. Try and focus solely on what I'm teaching you about the airspace and communications portion of the video. So we're upwind now. We can begin that right turn. We're clearing that right turn. Looks good out there to me as far as I can see. Gear is up. Flaps are up.
360 Tango X-ray, Burbank Tower. I need you to squawk mode C, sir.
Now, as you can remember from the CAT-04 rating, when we depart San Luis Airport, we are departing another class Delta here. So it's the exact same concept, is that we need to remain on the tower frequency until we are clear of the class Delta airspace. So bringing up our sectional chart again, you'll see that the class Delta airspace goes up to and including 2,800 feet. So with that, once we climb above 2,800, or once we get beyond the 4-mile radius of the Class Delta airport, 4 miles in most cases, you actually see it gets a little bit wider out here to the southeast, but that's not going to affect us today. So either when we leave the airspace laterally or vertically, we can switch frequencies and we can contact Santa Barbara approach for our flight following. Back into the cockpit, you'll see we're now through 2,900 feet, so we have left the Class Delta airspace, and we are clear of Santa Maria airspace. So we're going to switch over to 124.15, which is our Santa Barbara approach frequency that we found earlier. We're over there now. We're watching our green needle as we want to be tracking direct to the FLW VOR, so we're going to adjust for that now. Perfect. And now we're going to get ready to contact Santa Barbara approach. And this would be the same as if we were contacting the center as far as the phraseology goes, and it's really just our standard phraseology. It's going to be who we're calling, who we are, where we are, what we want to do. So there's going to be those 4 items, and what we want to do is going to be our flight following to Bakersfield. And that's what we're going to be requesting. No need to mention the CAT-05 again, because we already told the first controller we talked to, which was Santa Maria Ground, about our requests. So we're going to wait to get a word in on the frequency here. And now one more thing before I make that call. It's in the spirit of staying ahead of the airplane. We know the first thing he's going to give us is a transponder code. So we're going to get ready to type in that code. Or you can also just get a pen and paper in hand to write it down. But I find it's easiest just to have the numbers up and ready, so I can just plug that in as soon as he's telling me what my code is. Santa Barbara approach, bearing 210 Pop Echo, is about 10 miles to the northeast of Santa Maria through 6,000 feet, climbing to 7,500. Request flight following to Bakersfield.
November 210 Papa Echo, Santa Barbara approach, squawk 0515.
0515, 0 Pop Echo. Okay, we got the transponder code set there, 0515, and we should hear him say radar contact, and that's what we're waiting for. That means when we hear that, that means he is
0 Papa Echo, radar contact now about 12 miles east of the Guadalupe VOR. Verify altitude leaving.
Leaving 6,500 for bearing 0 Pop Echo.
Bearing 0 Papa Echo, thanks. Santa Maria altimeter 3002.
02. Now we're going to disregard the altimeter because we are using our own weather. Now when the controller tells us radar contact, that means that he has verified on his radar that the position correlates with what we have told him, and that he has verified that the target he's looking at is us. He sees us, and we are now in his system officially. It's essentially a verbal contract that we are entering in with ATC, that they are now looking at us and they are going to provide us with the service that we've requested. Now, if you don't hear radar contact, that means they don't see you yet. You might be in a non-radar environment, i.e. you're too low to be picked up by the radar, or maybe the controller just doesn't see you yet. So you want to always make sure that you hear those words, radar contact.
Baron 0 Papa Echo, contact Los Angeles Center now 135.5.
Contact Los Angeles Center 135.5, Baron 0 Pop Echo. Okay, so he's given us a frequency change over to LA Center now on 135.5, and this is just one radar controller handing us off to another one. And the check-in is relatively simple because we are already receiving the ATC from the radar controller. We're already in the system, so we don't have to tell this guy where we are. We're just checking in with our altitude. That is always the key, is check in with your current altitude and any sort of restrictions you've had. Los Angeles Center, Baron 210 Pop Echo, 7,400.
Baron 210 Papa Echo, Los Angeles Center, Bakersfield altimeter 2997.
907, 0 Pop Echo. Now again, we're going to disregard the altimeter, and we are just going to set the autopilot now, and that will allow us to just discuss a few things here as we cruise over to Bakersfield. Okay, level here at 7,500 with the autopilot engaged. Our DME shows 2.7 from the FLW VOR, and so we are going to prepare to tune that 047 degree radial, which will take us right to Bakersfield Airport. So we're going to begin twisting the OBS to 047, and that should pick it up when we head right over the FLW VOR. It'll give us a slight left turn about 10 degrees, pick up that 47 radial off of Fellows. Okay, so tracking our progress, we're now directly over Fellows, or at least just a little bit on the northeast side now. We just passed it, so we got about 45 miles to go to the Bakersfield Airport. Alright, so we're now about 10 miles northeast of Fellows, and that means we've got about 35 miles to go until we are at the Bakersfield Airport. Now, just because we're talking to ATC, remember that does not negate the fact that we need to see and avoid, so we're always looking for other traffic out there.
Alpha Echo, camera ground, some request standby.
And actually, I might see someone out here at our 12. Yeah, looks like there's some traffic out there. Remember, we're always staying clear of clouds too. We got to maintain your VFR.
0 Pop Echo, traffic 12 o'clock, 4 miles southwestbound, 8,000 is a 737.
Looking for traffic, 0 Pop Echo. Traffic in sight, 0 Pop Echo. Alright, so he just called this traffic to us here that's about to overfly us. And now how nice that that the controller would do that for us. There he is. Imagine us just cruising along at 7,500 feet and that 737 were to come right over us without us having any clue that he was there. That could be pretty frightening, and in fact the wake turbulence could rock you pretty well also. Now, I didn't feel much of the wake there. I'm not sure if that's modeled in the sim, but it's something you should always be cautious for. So that's a great example of why we receive VFR flight following when we are en route. It's just another service, another set of eyes that are watching you and watching the airspace around you, because as you saw, that 737 came awfully quick since they were head on with us, probably doing about 250 knots. So with us doing 180 knots, it's roughly a 400 knot closure rate there. Now, despite being on the Fellows radial here at 7,500 feet, we have our navigation plan and we are completely set in stone on what we want to do. You want to make sure that you're not just plowing through clouds and things like that. Remember, you still have to abide by your VFR cloud clearance requirements and just your overall VFR visibility requirements. So if there were a cloud that were
0 Pop Echo, contact Bakersfield approach 118.8.
118.8, Baron 0 Pop Echo. Alright, so 18.8 over to Bakersfield approach. Now, we're going to tune 18.8, and generally, this is the time where you'd pick up the ATIS, probably a little bit before. And the reason we're not, though, is just as I mentioned in this video, is that we're flying with information Zulu today. We're not using the actual ATIS due to the low visibility in Southern California at the time I'm recording this video. So I know that we're going to be ATIS information Zulu. However, if there was an ATIS we had to pick up, it'd be a good time to pick it up really about 40 or so miles from the airport. And we are currently about 25 miles from the airport. So you would have wanted to do that a little bit further back. Bakersfield approach, Baron 210 Pop Echo, 7,500 with information Zulu.
Baron 210 Pop Echo, Bakersfield approach, thank you for Zulu, the Bakersfield altimeter 2997.
0 Pop Echo. So we checked on with Zulu. That just lets them know that we are using our own custom weather conditions. If you had the ATIS from the actual frequency because you checked the ATIS prior to, you would check him obviously with that ATIS code. So as you can see, receiving flight following is fairly straightforward. You're just talking to the approach or center controller. They'll keep an eye on you, and you have no requirement to stay on any sort of flight plan or route unless they assign you a heading or an altitude to maintain. We could climb right now, we could descend right now, we can make a left 360 or right 360. We have no requirement to stay on any sort of flight path, even though they know we're going to Bakersfield eventually. However we get there, whatever altitude we fly there, it is completely up to us, because we are still VFR. The only difference is we're receiving flight following, which is just a service from air traffic control. So we're going to check our DME, 25 miles, and the field is 45 mile DME, so we're about 20 miles out from the Bakersfield Airport, and we're going to start looking forward out there. I don't quite see it yet, but I am going to kick off the autopilot. Actually, I'm not going to do that quite yet. We're going to get our frequencies ready first, so we are remaining ahead of the airplane. So let me bring up the airport diagram. And real quick, I'll also kind of brief how we're going to get into the airport. Runway 30 left and right are in use. We can expect a left base or maybe even a left downwind for runway 30 left and right. Okay. Now, as far as the frequencies go, we go to the top right. The ATIS, we would have already picked that up had we not been using our ATIS information in Zulu. So make sure you pick that up 18.6 ahead of time. Again, 40 to 50 miles is a good range. Bakersfield Tower, 118.1, so that's going to be our next frequency, followed by 121.7. So back in the cockpit, we'll get ready on 118.1 for Bakersfield Tower. Okay, that's set. And then I'm just going to write down 121.7 in front of me. That way I have it as a note, and I know that once we get over to Bakersfield Tower, I can then plug in the ground frequency on my standby. Obviously, we can't do it yet. We could use COM2 if we wanted to, but I'm just using one COM radio today to keep it simple. So I've only got one standby area where I can put another frequency. So 118.1 is our next frequency for the tower, and then the ground frequency will be after that. We are looking for the Bakersfield Airport. Should be somewhere off our nose.
Contact Bakersfield Tower, 118.1.
118.1, Baron 0 Pop Echo. Okay, switching over to the tower on 118.1, and 35 DME from Fellows means we are 10 out from the airport. So that's our location, and we're going to make the call. Bakersfield Tower, Baron 210 Pop Echo, 10 miles to the southwest, out of 5,500 to land with Zulu.
Baron 210 Pop Echo, Bakersfield Tower, on our left downwind, runway 30 left, report midfield.
Left downwind, 30 left, report midfield, Baron 0 Pop Echo. Alright, those are our pattern entry instructions. We'll join the left downwind on the 45. Remember, that's how we always join our downwinds, on the 45 degree. And he wants us to report midfield down for 30 left. At this point, we can get the ground frequency in because now we don't need that approach frequency anymore, so 121.7. That brings me to another good point, is that it's always good to keep your previous frequency in the standby, at least until you've made contact with the new controller. That's just because in case the frequency isn't working or you got the frequency wrong, you always have that last frequency to go back to and reference. You don't lose it and then you end up being lost in frequency land. So 30 left is the runway closest to us, and our flight path is going to take us pretty much like this. We'll slight right turn to join that left downwind on the 45, and then it's all left turns from there. Remember, left traffic means all left turns once you are actually established in the traffic pattern. It has nothing to do with the side of the runway or side of the airport that we're on. It's all left traffic because it's left turns in the traffic pattern. Now, when we report midfield downward, we're actually going to also request runway 30 right. So this will be a good opportunity for you all to see how you can go about requesting something that's not initially assigned to you. And obviously, it's just completely up to the controller's discretion. Maybe there's a reason he gave us 30 left, but if there's not, we'd like 30 right because it's a quicker and easier taxi for us. So we'll see what he says about that. But for now, we're just planning 30 left. You cannot assume that he's going to give that to you. All right, so we are joining the left downwind at this point on the 45. Bakersfield Tower, Baron 0 Pop Echo is left midfield down, runway 30 left. Request runway 30 right available.
Baron 210 Pop Echo, not a problem. Runway 30 right, clear to land, wind calm.
Clear to land, runway 30 right. Thank you, Baron 0 Pop Echo. Okay, so not a problem there, as you heard. 30 right. You know, you might just have assumed we wanted the left side because it was from shorter from where we currently were, but he was unaware of where we were parking, so that was the difference there.
Just 2 Alpha Pop, you're going to Ontario, correct?
Now, Bakersfield's an interesting airport where it has a very long displaced threshold. And what that means is that this area of pavement here, you'll see the arrows on it, we can not land there, but you can use it for a departure roll. So we have to keep it in the air all the way down to the numbers, which you can see are right there above my pointer. However, if we were departure, we could roll all down these arrows and we could use that for departing. That's usually for noise abatement or some sort of hazard that they want us to make sure that we clear on a short final.
Could you please repeat the departure frequency?
Departure.
Santa Monica Tower, Aero 621 Papa Whiskey holding short, runway 21 ready for departure IFR.
Aero 621 Papa Whiskey, Santa Monica Tower, runway 21, cleared for takeoff, 11805.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 21, Aero 621 Papa Whiskey.
Alright, and we've come to a slow enough roll that we can make a turn to the right. We want to clear these hold bars entirely.
385 Alpha Echo through 2,400 for 4,000.
0385 Alpha Echo,
Flaps up.
radar contact. There is traffic off your left, actually passing.
And we'll just wait until on tower frequency. And now we just wait on the tower frequency until the control tower tells us if we should switch to ground or taxi with him. And we'll give it a few seconds here for him to get back to us. But if we do not hear anything, then we'll ping him and just let him know we're clear the runway.
5,000.
5,000, 5 Alpha, yeah.
Baron 210 Papa Echo, taxi parking via Alpha. Remain this frequency as they pass for CAT-5.
Taxi park via Alpha, pass the CAT-5. Thank you, 0 Pop Echo, for this frequency. All right, well, there we go. We already got our passing grade, and we just taxied the ramp via Alpha. As you can see, I cut out a lot of this video compared to the other ones, just for the sake of time, making them a little bit shorter for you all, as we are reviewing a lot of different things. We've already discussed how to enter a traffic pattern. We've already discussed how to do some other things I cut out of this video. So if you want to go check out some of the concepts that were cut out of this video, review the CATs 1 through 4, and that way we can keep proceeding on with the CATs 6 through 11 with just the new material to really focus on that. Every CAT rating obviously builds on the past, and it's always introducing some new concepts. Thanks for joining us today for the CAT 5. We'll see you on the CAT 6.